The first Beserker Khazan released on Windows through Steam and both the Xbox and PlayStation consoles in March of 2025. It's a Korean-made Souls-like with combat similar to Black Myth Wukong and other action games, and was infamous on its release for its difficulty. But since its release, it has received patches that balance things a bit more and provided players with 4 different difficulty levels. The first Beserker Khazan retails for $60 but you can pick it up for 30% off if you wait for a sale. So is the first Beserker Khazan worth playing on console? This review is going to answer that question.
Your fate destroyed by one you trusted. A fallen star, torn from its orbit. You are the one we were waiting for.
Let's begin, as we always do, by talking about the graphics and technical performance of Khazan on console. The game runs really well on both Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 with no FPS drops, bugs, or glitches. There is both a quality and performance mode that you can switch between, but I would suggest keeping it on the performance mode for those extra FPS in combat. Graphically, the worlds in Khazan are pretty interesting, although the level layout is a bit straightforward. There are a lot of things to look at in the distance, but it's clear that every map is surrounded by cliffs and deadly falls, making the levels feel really boxed in. There are some design choices in the levels as well that can be a bit odd. Overall, it makes the levels not the most appealing part of Khazan. Apart from that, the cutscenes are pretty cool with cel-shaded art style and bright, colorful energy that make it feel like a Korean anime. Overall, the game does look and play good, and I have no real complaints about how it looks or plays on console.
Your body is fully healed. The power of death cannot claim you now. Do you feel it? The energy of the netherworld. That is what flows through you. Now, join with us.
Alright, let's talk about the difficulty. As I said at the start of the review, Khazan released with just a single difficulty option and it was brutally hard. It was often considered to be one of the hardest games released this year, and it was a point of pride for people who beat it. After a few patches, the difficulty was tweaked a bit, with some enemies receiving a nerf, or players had their stamina buffed, but it was still a very hard game. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people do love hard games, but the people who make games enjoy receiving money for their hard work, and putting out a punishingly difficult game does limit the amount of potential customers. So, the developers introduced an easy mode that, while it was still difficult, put it more in line with other Souls-like. But again, they ran into a problem. People didn't want to play it on easy mode. It was a point of pride that they played it on the normal intended difficulty, and rather than bump the difficulty down when they got stuck, the developers found that many players would just quit instead to keep their pride intact. So, they changed the difficulty again. If you play Khazan today, there is a beginner mode, normal mode, expert, and hardcore difficulties. Normal difficulty now is the former easy difficulty when it was released, while expert is the former normal intended way for the game to be played. Beginner is an even easier version for people who haven't played very many action games or they just want to enjoy the story. And then hardcore is for masochists. So essentially, the difficulties were renamed to what they are now, from very easy, easy, normal, and very hard. I played the game on normal, but switched it to both beginner and expert to see what the differences are. Basically, normal has you dealing more damage, taking less damage, and having more stamina regen than expert difficulty, which is the baseline. Beginner improves that even more to the point where stamina regen is barely a concern. You will run out, but stop attacking for just a moment and it will come back in an instant. Most players will not have a problem beating the game on beginner difficulty, with each boss taking 1 or 2 tries at the most. Normal may have you get stuck on a few of the harder bosses until you learn their movesets or optimize your character, and expert will have you stopping at most bosses for a while, requiring both skill, proper loadouts, and patience in order to beat the game. It took me about 35 hours to beat the game on normal while doing most of the side content, but I also bumped it down to beginner a few times in order to push past some of the harder bosses. Otherwise, I would still be playing it as of right now.
I will have no masters. You need my body, but I need your strength. We don't need to be enemies. I swear on my honor, my blood. We can work together, cooperate. You help me, I help you.
Bargain, is it? Very well. If this is what is required, we concur. No! Enough!
For the story, Khazan is connected to the dungeon and fighter games, which I never played or heard of before. If you haven't either, don't worry, the story makes sense completely on its own. The game starts with Khazan being tried as a traitor, the tendons in his hands are cut, and he's being carted away to either prison or exile. The moon in the sky is like sort of strange with a hole in it. There's something clearly wrong with the world around him. A ghost takes interest in Khazan, and it's looking for a body to possess, and it causes an avalanche that frees him. After stumbling through the snow, the ghost heals his body as it tries to take control of him, but Khazan resists its influence. Eventually, he learns more about this ghost that's trying to possess him, and he finds out that it was sent by the Netherworld to stop the source of chaos in the world, and the ghost is actually a collection of dead heroes, which you can collect throughout your journey. At its most basic, without any spoilers, this is a revenge story that starts simple and then gets really strange over time. There are resurrections, ghosts and spirits, other worlds, and a source of chaos magic that's corrupting people. The narrative isn't anything groundbreaking, but it is serviceable in the same way that an anime story is a way to have these big boss battles and conflicts.
So this is how a hero ends up.
You really think he's a traitor?
Shh. Quiet with that kind of talk.
Khazan is an action game, and I found it closely resembled Black Myth Wukong in the way you move and fight, but with slower combat and an inventory system that reminded me strongly of Nioh. You have a light attack and a heavy attack, combos that you can chain together, and skills to unlock, along with multiple weapon types that have their own advantages and disadvantages. You get skill points through experience, you can level up at bonfires just like a Souls-like, and you get items that can be used or thrown, along with a refillable Estus flask to regain health with limited charges. The inventory system, however, is just like Nioh. You're going to be getting a slew of new items and weapons and equipment all the time, with minimal stat changes between them. But on the harder difficulties, you're going to need every edge you can get, so you're constantly switching and swapping them out. Some of the weapons, like the dual swords and spear, attack really fast and quick, while the greatsword swings slowly and can be difficult to use, and you will need to put points into soaking damage when you swing since you can't dodge or block as much while you attack. The best thing about Khazan is the combat and its bosses. The levels may be straightforward and not very memorable, but they are just a path to the mini-boss and the final boss of each level. They vary a lot, coming in all shapes and sizes, but you will need to learn their movesets and be patient if you want to succeed. If you play on the harder difficulties, these bosses can be damage sponges, and I think you would be completely justified in turning down the difficulty if you get frustrated or stuck on one. Overall, the combat is tight and engaging, and I doubt very many people will complain about it. Apart from the bosses and the combat, there are vendors in the communal area you visit between missions. You can upgrade your equipment or sell it off, and there's side missions where you get new weapons and new spirits for the ghosts that accompany you.
There is no way out.
Alright, let's go into the pros and cons of Khazan. For the pros, the combat is fast, tight, and very responsive. You can cancel out of attacks, dodge fairly well, and swing radiuses of your weapons are pretty good. The bosses are well designed with interesting movesets and a good variety to them. The game looks and runs really good. But for the cons, the controls are different from what you would expect from a Souls-like, and I kept pressing the wrong button to dodge or to use an item all the time, even hours into the game. The levels are fairly bland and straightforward at times, and the bosses can be damage sponges for the sake of difficulty on expert or even normal at times. The side content will have you revisiting past levels and going through them almost completely the same way, just to pick up an item or kill an enemy. And that's it for another review. So, is the first Beserker Khazan worth playing on console? Whether you pick it up on sale or at full price, the game is worth the hours it takes to beat it. And with the added difficulties, anyone can get through the main storyline without too much trouble, while those looking for an insane challenge still have expert and hardcore difficulties. Plus, when you beat it, you get to replay it on the next higher difficulty, and then question your life choices that led you to enjoy something that is beyond challenging. I'm the Casual Console Gamer on YouTube, and I'll see you all on the next review.